Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is Jonathan Corey, who is currently in Israel. Jonathan, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us and giving us the platform to speak about what's going on in Israel right now.
Of course, let's give people some context as we sit here just a few days removed from one of the worst attacks Israel has seen, the worst attack Israel has seen in decades. Hamas attacked Israel via land, air, and sea on Saturday. So, my first question to you is: how are you? Are you safe? And where are you?
I'm based in Haifa. After yesterday, I was in Tel Aviv. We have opened a situation room in order to try and gather as much as information as possible in order to start and spread out the horrific attacks that was launched by the Hamas terrorist organization on October 7th. It was the last day of Sukkot holiday, the Jewish holiday, where a lot of people were not only visiting their families and friends surrounding the Gaza Strip and in the south of Israel, but also were having a party alongside of the Gaza Strip that was approved and everything was okay. And Hamas terrorist organization launched what we can say today as using ISIS tactics on Israeli civilians that were at that party and on the villages and cities that are surrounding the Gaza Strip inside of the Israel territory. So what they did was they infiltrated Israel, both as you mentioned from land, sea, and air, and they just immediately started butchering and kidnapping whoever just went in their way. We have till now even less than 72 hours from when Hamas launched its war against Israel, we have more than 1,000 casualties, Israeli civilians that has been killed by Hamas. We have more than 2,400 injured, and we have more than 150 Israeli civilians, both women, men, children, and elderly, that are now inside of the Gaza Strip after they have been kidnapped by Hamas terrorist organization. We've seen scenes, sorry for the graphics, but we have seen scenes that we all know before from 2012, 2013 that were done by ISIS terrorist organization that are happening right now to Israelis surrounding in the Gaza Strip.
The scenes you're describing, I've seen on social media, and they are horrific. They are dragging people in the street. There are children in cages. It's just unimaginable, is the only word really to describe it. But as we're here and you're in Israel, so you are 72 hours removed right now from the attack. Can you describe the situation on the ground a little bit for us? Is Hamas still on the ground in Israel right now?
Well, the IDF just announced a few hours ago that up to that moment, there's no Hamas terrorists that are still fighting inside of the Israeli territory, that they were able 72 hours after they launched the attack to whether to get them back behind the border or they were just, killed instantly on the spot because they were shooting right at the IDF soldiers. And just to remind you, we're not talking about just a regular military activity that there's going on between two militaries. No, we're talking about a militia of terrorist organization that a lot of them were dressed as civilians. A lot of them were dressed and hiding in places and waiting for those who were at the party. And once they started running away, they just kept them in this circle and they started shooting immediately. We have 260 casualties only at the Neve party that was in the south of Israel. We have one Israeli kibbutz with 108 people, complete families that were butchered in their homes by Hamas terrorists. So as we speak right now, there were about thousands of Hamas terrorists entering to Israel and fighting inside of Israel, both in kibbutz that were captive for more than 24 hours. Um, and now the situation is that Israel is responding back towards the Gaza Strip and targeting Hamas targets that within, some of them are within public locations also.
This has been described as Israel's 9/11, and I remember 9/11, and I also remember that September 12th in America and how Americans came together regardless of race, regardless of political belief. And as an American, I've never felt more united after such a horrific day as 9/11. So can you describe for us that the sentiment right after this attack? How are Israelis feeling?
Well, after we started getting out of the shock that we were into, immediately, thousands of civilians that weren't drafted to the IDF, we have more than 360,000 people drafted to the IDF right now at this moment that weren't in a current military activity. So we have those who just put their uniforms on as reserves and went to fight and join their brothers in the battlefield. And we have citizens all across the state that didn't have any military background or weren't in a military reserve that are now doing everything in their power in order, one, to help out our soldiers that are fighting right now at the border. So we've seen a lot of equipment that are being brought from all across, even from abroad. We have people that are donating and keep on sending us information or ways or asking us how they can help in order to assist Israel in that matter. And I think one of the amazing things that we're seeing right now is also how the people from south of Israel are being welcomed all across of the center and northern of Israel, that some of them are still under attack. As we speak right now, there's a fire, there's launch of missiles towards Tel Aviv in the center of Israel. So even though they are under attack as well, they're doing everything in their power in order to help their brothers and sisters that are now relocating from south of Israel. So they are covering like materials for babies and food and diapers and everything to help them keep them safe at night, to put some roof above their heads. And we have amazing citizens as well that are trying to do their best in order to pass on the image of what's going on right now in Israel to the world, because everyone needs to see that Hamas today is ISIS in 2012. This is the same thing. You mentioned 9/11, and not only the surprise of the attack surprised us all Israelis, but the scope of more than 1,000 Israelis murdered and killed, and more than 2,600 injuries in less than 72 hours. These are numbers that Israel has never seen before. But I'm sure and I'm positive that we will win this. The world needs to be with us at this moment and help us fight the attacks that we're having, because this is the right moment that the world needs to choose whether they are for humanity or whether they're supporting organizations like ISIS now in the Gaza Strip in the name of Hamas.
I do want to talk about what you want to see from the world, but first I want to touch on what you said about the surprise and the scope. This was obviously an extremely coordinated attack from Hamas, and it was an intelligence failure because of that surprise. So do the people of Israel put any blame on Prime Minister Netanyahu for not seeing this coming?
Yeah, well, this is the first thing that everyone started saying, like, how did this happen? How we didn't see that coming? How it happened that, one of the most powerful militaries in the world was surprised in that matter. But I think that at the moment, we need to leave that to the interrogation that will definitely happen, and the price that will be paid by a demand from the Israeli public. So I think at the moment, the most important thing that we're doing now as Israelis is to be united in the front line, supporting our soldiers, supporting our troops, and everyone that is helping, and to make sure that this bloodshed will end completely. One of the things that needs to be done, and the former President Obama tweeted about it yesterday, is that what we need to do right now is to disarm Hamas from its weapons and to make sure that they will never, ever be any organization like Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
I want to talk about the geographical implications here. Can you explain to an American audience the basic geography of Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank?
Well, I think it goes beyond even that, but let me just answer your question and we will
And
maybe
then go
make it
larger.
a little
Yes,
bit
go
wider.
even
Yeah,
larger.
exactly.
Sure.
So what we have is that we have the state of Israel that is currently in the middle between the West Bank, or what's known as Judea and Samaria, and between the Gaza Strip, that there is no Israeli presence on the ground of the Gaza Strip since 2005 after Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip. So it's 100% completely in control of the Hamas terrorist organization that was voted on in 2007 by the Palestinian people living in the Gaza Strip. So we're having them. We have the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank that is being led by the President Mansour Abbas, Mahmoud Abbas. Mansour Abbas is in Israel. We have Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, who is in power for 16 years because there's no democracy in the West Bank, so there was no elections after he was elected 16 years ago. So he's in control of the West Bank, and they are not really synchronized between themselves. So they're in current fighting, the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, but they're both surrounding Israel and attacking Israel from all sides. So this is what's going. We're seeing now riots that is going on in east of Jerusalem. We're seeing riots that's happening in Jenin and other places in the West Bank in order for them to start and kind of make the military not being targeted on one place. But what we are seeing today is not only that the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority is starting to provoke Israel more than provoke, but just attack. We have a Hezbollah terrorist organization that is located on the northern border of Israel in Lebanon. And what has this terrorist organization did in the last 48 hours was to launch missiles towards Israeli military targets in the northern border of Israel, making Israel or forcing Israel to respond back to the place that the attack went out from. There was more than 3 attempts of infiltrating to Israeli territories from south of Lebanon towards the northern villages of Israel, by also not only the Hezbollah terrorist organization, but also by the Muslim Jihad that is currently based also in Lebanon. We're having even a border with Syria that is now a lot of people talking about that might get ignited because a lot of Palestinians or terrorist organizations are on that border from the Syrian side. So we're talking about an option that maybe that border will start to command. So what's going on is that we have Israel, we have the sea over here, we have Lebanon in the north, we have the Gaza Strip, both of them in like the south and center of Israel with the West Bank. We have Jordan also. We have Egypt in the south of Israel. So we're completely surrounded by Arab countries. But what's going on is at least we have a peace agreement between Egypt and Jordan that were signed in the 70s. And for now, these peace agreements are still in space. So hopefully this will not expand towards, no one is expecting it to expand towards Jordan and Egypt. Egypt is actually has taken a lot of times parts of helping out and making sometimes, you know, the situation to settle down. But I don't think that after this time of what Hamas terrorist organization did to Israel, to innocent children and women, I don't think that Israel will stop till Hamas is surrendered.
I do want to talk about the broader implications here in the region specifically. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iran was involved in this attack. And Netanyahu declared a full-out war on Hamas. Do you anticipate, or do the people of Israel anticipate, a full-out war between Israel and Iran?
Well, this is something that people are now considering, expecting that both Hamas and the Hezbollah terrorist organization and all the other proxies that Iran has in the Middle East to attack Israel. This is something that Iran did throughout its proxies, and it's estimated that they might attack directly from Iran. This is something that is being taken into considerations. I know that the US have sent its courier over here in order to make sure that if Israel needs an extra assistance in military support, the US will provide. And I think the Israeli population is thankful for the US and for President Biden for its support and for the major, huge world support that we're receiving from France, from the UK, from all across from India, and also from the Ukraine. I know that they are also in their own war, but it strengthens us. It helps us understand that we have the world's support to destroy Hamas once and for all.
What else do you want to see from the international community? The White House released a joint statement along with allies like the United Kingdom, Germany, France, unequivocally standing with Israel, which is a great first step for Israel. But what would you like to see next?
Well, what I want to see next is that the world will continue its support with Israel, that now what's going on is going to be a constant fight for maybe not only several days, but several weeks and maybe several months, that no one in the world will hesitate to support Israel against this. I can't express enough words to describe this despicable and just horrific terrorist organization that is going on in the Gaza Strip, and the world needs to make sure that Israel has the full support in order to demolish it. This is something that the world needs to understand, that they need to stand for freedom, and Israel is freedom. This is what they need to know. This is what they know from a daily day basis. And speaking out as an Israeli Christian, this is something that a lot of people all around the world speaks against Israel for not treating its minorities well or discriminating against us. And this is just completely wrong. And the world knows that Israel is the beacon of light in the Middle East. And in order to stay the beacon of light in the Middle East, we need to have a 100% support of the world and the international community. And they need to stick with it.
You're on the ground in Israel, and this has been an international story since Saturday. It was shocking. The videos, there's no words to describe just how horrific those were. And it's something covered in every headline, every major news outlet. It is in every international conversation. What do you think is missing from the international conversation, from the conversation in general?
I think what's missing is the people realizing the scope of this attack that happened against Israel on October 7th, 2023. I don't think that people still understands the 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 extremity of this attack and the casualties that we have in Israel. Um, this is something that when we put it on a scope for 9/11, as you mentioned before, in percentages per capita, Israel now in the percentages were much higher than the numbers of 9/11 that you had in the US. And this is the scope that we need to know. This is the scopes that needs to be spread worldwide. I know that a lot of people loves to sit on studios and speak their mind and to speak from a really comfortable place, I have to say. You're having a really nice cushion under your I don't want to say the word, but under your behind. And it's easy to sit out there in studios and speak out and say that Israel needs to stay humane, Israel needs to do one, two, three, four, while they're not living it. Israel is humane. Israel will continue to be humane and will continue to support and provide human rights for all of its citizens. And actually, what we're doing today is making sure that also the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip will be able to be freed from the regime of the terrorist organization Hamas.
What should we look out for next, and what are you looking out for next?
Well, we're looking out currently, we're having a lot of interaction in the northern border of Israel. We're waiting to see how this will escalate. Hopefully, it will de escalate and not continue to escalate as it was in the last 48 hours. I think the international community needs to make sure that the Hezbollah terrorist organization will not join this battle. And as a former Lebanese myself, I was fled to Israel. I had to flee to Israel in May 2000. And after my father was part of the South Lebanon army, that we fought to liberate the south of Lebanon from the Hezbollah terrorist organization. And what is happening now is almost full control of the Hezbollah terrorist organization all across of Lebanon. And the people of Lebanon needs to understand that Hezbollah eventually will bring huge destruction on Lebanon, on the Lebanese people, that I know deep in my heart that no one wants to have a fight, let alone a war against Israel. And what's leading them to war against Israel is only the Hezbollah terrorist organization that being used as a proxy from Iran. And the international media, the international community needs to intervene and to make sure that Hamas doesn't exist anymore.
As of right now, what do you think is the bigger threat to Israel, Hezbollah or Hamas?
Well, military speaking, Hezbollah has more and powerful weapons than the Hamas does. I've read some reports from the IDF saying that approximately Hamas has around 15,000 missiles. That is now currently, this is the threat on Israeli civilians because they have been shooting more than 4,000 missiles in the last 72 hours across to Israel. And they have approximately 15,000 and they have launched already about 4,500,000. So their numbers are limited. But the side with Lebanon could be more catastrophic. More direct missiles, more direct attacks towards civilians and Israeli population that is more dense, that you could say, than some of the territories in south of Israel. And this is something that is starting to happen. People are starting to evacuate from the northern border of Israel, of villages up to 1 mile from the border. They're starting to evacuate to make sure that nothing would happen to them.
And Jonathan, you're in central Israel right now. Do you feel safe?
Well, I feel safe because I know that at the end of the day, the IDF will prevail, and the IDF will make everything in its power to protect Israel's civilians. I know that in the deep of my heart that although we can't see it right now, but we will go out of it. I'm sure that when we will look at it, we will see that after a few days, we were able to collect ourselves and just fight in every way possible, both in the international media, both all across social media, both in the battlefield as we speak right now. Soldiers are there. And I'm sure that the Israeli society has a huge strength, let alone the Jewish people themselves after surviving the Holocaust and all of massacres across the years. And this is something that I'm sure that the Israeli society will be united in this war, and we will make sure to keep united after.
Jonathan, Corey, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your insight, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much, Brittany.